This is the Advaita After Hours podcast, where we explore how spirituality influences our daily lives. Hariyo, I am Rajesh, and in today's conversation, Narayanan and I delve into the multifaceted nature of meditation, exploring its purpose, challenges, and various techniques. We discuss the importance of quieting the mind, the journey of mindfulness, and the role of inquiry and surrender in deepening one's meditative practice. Through personal anecdotes and reflections, we highlight the transformative power of meditation in achieving calmness and self awareness. So sit back, listen, and reflect as you join us on this journey.
Hariom Narayanji, good
Hariom,
evening.
hariom.
It's really nice to spend some time with you again. Today it'll be just us. And what
Okay.
I wanted to talk about a little bit today is reflecting on the idea of nididhyasana or meditation and where meditation fits, what we see as the purpose of meditation, and then more importantly, the challenges with integrating meditation, sorry, not medicine. So, do you want to start a little bit with your own journey, understanding, and then the theoretical practical divide?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is something that if you ask me to talk for 2 hours, I'll talk. Do it for 10 minutes, I'll struggle. Right. So it's probably not unique to me. Uh, so in this path, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam are the three steps that everybody says and progressive steps. Shravanam, listening to the ideas so that you understand what to do. Mananam is contemplating and convincing yourself that this is worth doing and this is something that uh, convincing yourself and understanding it better and making sure that you have a way of reflecting on all of those ideas. And then eventually Nididhyasanam is a practice where you try to be absorbed in that one reality eventually. Whether it is meditation in a Vedantic way or meditation which is yoga in a yogic way, it's the same thing, right? Shamadama, asanam, all of those 8 steps for Ashtanga yoga, right? It ends with samadhi. In Vedanta, you say that you don't go through all of those and all of that. For Shamadama, Uparaditi Diksha, all of those are part of your sadhana chatushtayam, which you need in this whole process. But in my personal story, well, it started like everybody with a lot of Shravanam, and Shravanam just dropped after Shravanam. It didn't go to the next level until there was some intellectual capacity to understand and contemplate some of those things. And when you start to understand more, you kind of theoretically understand that otherwise this will remain just book knowledge. If you go through all of those, you have to have to the higher level of understanding, and so you practice simply as a means to uh, it is not to realize or get enlightened. It is just to calm your mind, quieten your mind, be able to be more productive at work when you're working, so that you have a much more calmer mind, be able to control your um, your sensory reactions, for lack of a better word. So that's one way that I have done it, and that's probably where I'm still stuck. Where using these practices just to stay calm and just um, to contemplate, reflect. I can't. There have been, so I've done Sudarshana Kriya, Art of Living, 2-3 weeks of that while I was in grad school. Ended with very nice sleep. Eventual group thing where we're supposed to be in samadhi, I was in sleep. I actually slept very well, and it's probably was not my experience alone. That with your sleep feeling, with your eyes open, where everything is very clear and calm, which is the samadhi state. It's only hearsay for.
Yeah, I think that is probably many people's experience. Um, I first started playing around with meditation. I use those words very intentionally. So growing up, um, during prayer and everything at home, we were encouraged to do japa meditation, right? So with like Sandhya Vandanam or other things, you do japa meditation. And in that, you say the japa, and at least at that point in my life, I wasn't really concentrating on the meaning of the japa or anything, but it was just some time to sit in stillness. Then I remember when I was doing my schooling, I went to some different types of meditation classes. There were some Buddhist meditation classes, some other types of meditation classes, and then I spent a lot of time in a mindfulness meditation class where um, the purpose was to be in touch with what you were doing, right? So even like one of the big Thich Nhat Hanh mindfulness meditation techniques is walking meditation, right? So as you walk around, you feel every part of the ground, every part of your foot. You feel the ground pushing through your foot into your knees and into your hips. And that mindful meditation, I really, really enjoyed. And the beautiful thing about mindfulness meditation is that the goal is to make your whole life appear to mindfulness meditation, right? Whatever you do is to make it a mindful experience. And then around that same time was, I don't know if you ever came across this book. I think it was Woodshop no, something as Soulcraft. Something. So it's basically this book that was got very popular at the time. I'm going to butcher some of the details, so forgive me. But it's this person that had a white collar job, and then he left that to go be a bike mechanic. But in doing that, he found a lot of peace, and he talked a lot about this idea of flow and this idea of when you do something you love, it has a meditative quality to it where you forget yourself and you see the world. And to me, I think that is a very, very important basic idea of meditation. And even in your Sudarshana Kriya example, probably one of the reasons you got such a good sleep is momentarily you're able to quieten your mind, right? To where you're at a more peaceful point. And then I think on top of that, um, if you can integrate some of the Shravanam and Mananam, mm, especially the Mananam reflections into it, then you start to have a greater meaning. But maybe I'll just stop there and just talk about um, where do you think that role of meditative discipline fits in and the idea of at least starting to forget parts of yourself and quieten your mind in the course of something that you may think of as meditative?
Yeah, it is the quietening the mind. I think whatever profession, whatever you're doing, whatever activity you're doing, I think a quiet mind is always your friend. An unagitated mind the potential of mind is so much that a lot of its efficiency is lost in the agitations that it undergoes, and lots of meaningless agitations it undergoes. So if through deliberate practice we are able to quieten some of those meaningless agitations, um, I think that is a very useful thing. Even in sadhana chatushtayam, when you talk about the sixfold pressure, shat sambati, shamam comes first before even damam. Mind control comes first even before sense organ control. So the idea that you control the mind and therefore the sense organs will automatically be controlled. You can't just control the sense organs because mind is behind that as well. So you start with the mind, and the beauty with mind is that the only tool to control it with is mind itself. You don't have any other external tool to control the mind. So the controller and the controlled becomes the same. And it is that whole idea of, and lots of Vedanta comes down to this idea of breaking down the knower knowledge and the known barriers, right? So this is, as a practice, this is the first step in breaking down the barrier, because the controller and the controlled has to be one. And how do you do that? You have to control the mind with the mind. But the good thing is that the mind is an eminently trainable thing. So you make use of all of these to keep some discipline, and you need that discipline, right? So if you say that I'm doing it at And that's what we tell our students in 12th grade. Don't try and say that, you know what, I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock and do meditation. You will do it only for one day. But if you say that I'll do it at 7 o'clock, you're probably much more likely to do it because you are awake at 7 o'clock. You don't have to do that part to do it, right? So do try to integrate it in whatever way that you can. Start slow, start small, and eventually, I think it becomes a practice. It becomes that, I think, and all of us who at least have enjoyed quietude, um, calm mind, will always want to go back to it, even though circumstances sometimes may not allow us to do that all the time. The beauty of having a calm mind, and then in whatever you do, if you are doing it after the mind has been calmed, you spend half an hour on reflection and then go and do something, I think your efficiency in that work is much more. So forget about attaining spiritual realization and realizing God. We don't have to worry about that if you don't want to. It can simply be a process where you become efficient in what you do.
Yeah, I would echo that very, very strongly. I have had periods and I've meditated periods I haven't. And I think um, for the past year plus, I've been much more very disciplined about the meditation. And I see it makes a huge difference just for the mindset for the day. But also, I would say that just like you said, it is truly a muscle, right? And in the beginning, it is very hard. And over time, it gets easier. It's not unlike going to the gym.
Yeah, yeah.
But also, I would say that there are good days and there are bad days. And um, and some days you have more stamina and other days you don't. Um, but I have found tremendous value in doing it. So I do it twice a day, and I find that the evening time is very, very hard. It is incredibly hard because by then, um, I think you yourself are tired. It is much harder to rein the mind in, and it's much easier to wander. But I think it adds a sense of discipline to still do it because whether you know it or not, you are auto suggesting to yourself that this is something that's important.
Yeah,
And
and
that is
and
of
and
value.
I have, at least some of my experiences are uh, things that you never knew you know. You sometimes feel it after this very quiet and session, and you think, did I even did I have I read this anywhere? Where did I know this? Right? And I've had several aha moments like this where you I mean, I'm sure I've seen this, I've read it, I knew it, but it was so much in the subconscious that it was not even registering. But in that, it's like seeing a pebble at the bottom of a lake or water, right? You never know that it's there when the water is muddy, and you yourself know that, oh, did I really know this?
Absolutely. I think it really comes down to it's not so much about discovering new knowledge, but uncovering what you already
Correct.
know. And
Yeah.
that's what you uncovered. Can you talk through different things you've tried in the past in your journey, or different things you've read, and ways in which those have helped at different times?
So I have done, I mean, I can do this, I can do, because I've tried several things. So I've done Rupa Dhyana on a figure. I've done that for quite a long time, and uh, you know, Guruvayur Krishnan was what we all grew up with. I read Narayaniyam every day, which is on Krishnan. It has something called Keshadipada Varnana, really one whole chapter on describing right from the hair all the way to the toe of the Lord, part by part in exhaustive detail. And so I have done Rupa Dhyanam, which is actually very, very good, and it's very nice. But it is very addictive. It'll hold you there. So then I've tried Shabda Dhyana on sound. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namo Narayanaya. I've done Shabda Dhyana. I've done it for, and then I got bored. I mean, I literally will say got bored out of it. I needed something new. Again, that's because I was not rooted in these processes, right? I was doing it as a process, and once your muscle memory is there, you say that, okay, now in what's new, what will keep me there? So it is simply because my mind is not mature enough to hold on to that and transcend and go to the next level. So I wanted the next one. So Rupa Dhyanam, Shabda Dhyanam. Then I did what I actually spent quite a bit of time is on the chakras. Simply contemplating on the chakra, starting from Muladhara, Anahrida, to your sender of your thing, and then and so and having so this I read from Sri M. I don't know if you've read about Sri M. He's a he's a Muslim who was a Urdu family, but was born in Kerala. And at 6 or 7, he had a random sannyasi came to him and put his head on, said, "You will find me later." And at 18, he left his house, went in search of him all over. He was ready to commit suicide in Badrinath, saying that I can't find my guru. And then in one cave, he finds it and he says, "Aa gaya, abhi aa gaya." And then it's whole story of living with him. And then he said, "Now you go." So this is this is Babaji. So this was Babaji's shishya or whatever. I mean, I think so. His idea of doing different colors. So thinking about a color white for your heart chakra, right? Thinking about a lotus for your murdha. So doing all of that, I think I like that because it was, and I actually felt very good with that. But again, like I said, it went back. Then I cycled back to Rupa Dhyanam again. Then I did quite a bit of Vedantic meditation, which is something that I sometimes do it for teacher satsang also, which is basically quietening your mind and then only about inward, turning your to inward self, trying to keep it blank to have that. So I've tried that also, but to be frank, nothing I would say. I mean, it was all beautiful while it was happening, but nothing. I wouldn't say one is my favorite or whatever. I've tried all of these.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? If we kind of go back to each of those techniques you tried, the ultimate goal with each of those techniques is to find somewhere for you to choose what your mind focuses on rather than your mind to choose what it focuses on, right? So whether you're focusing on the image of Krishna, whether you're focusing on your chakras, whether you're focusing on this, it's a discipline. And I think that's one of the things that I found is that's where the stamina comes in, right? In that in the beginning, you may be able to hold it for 30 seconds,
Right.
45 seconds before another thought creeps in and you have to tell that car thought, please come back later. I'm focusing on something else now. And then over time, it might get to 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And as those thoughts come in, you have to have that discipline to say, go away now, and eventually to listen to you.
Right, and Rupa Dhyanam in that part was the easiest, right? So you can just that there is something that you can instantaneously focus on, and with Vedantic meditation, it's the hardest, where you don't really have something to hold on to, and you're always turning to yourself, and you're trying to go back and negate stuff. I'm not the Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, I am Anandam. So, that process is all of this will have to be done through the mind itself. There is no dropping it completely until you get and hold on to that final one. And pretty much it's like trying to hike up a big mountain. Somewhere in the middle, you drop it, you come back. But what they say is that do not stop it, go back, start all over again. Wherever you drop, no problem, start all over again.
There's a great book by Tattvadananda Saraswati. He's one of Swami Dayananda Saraswati's disciples. Wonderful speaker, very eloquent with Ashavidya Gurukulam. So last time he was in Phoenix, he talked a little bit about meditation, and he's written this book called Nididhyasana, or he didn't write it. It's a book based on his guided meditations. And that's a book on Vedantic
Meditation.
meditation. And it's very beautiful in that the core thing that it starts with is just look at yourself, right? So you close your eyes, you look at yourself, but then you reflect upon what you're looking at and how you're looking at it yourself. You ask yourself, wait, I'm able to look at myself with my eyes closed. So what does that mean? Does that mean that my eyes are necessary for looking?
Correct.
And then when you're looking at yourself, you're focusing so much on yourself that your thoughts aren't there, your mind isn't there. So when you come to this moment where you are ahamasmi, right? I
Brahmasmi.
am B,
Correct.
I am me, right? And then you think to yourself, if I am me, and right now the world doesn't exist, then it's not that I depend on the world, but the world depends on my giving it reality.
Correct.
So it's almost this beautiful book which allows this very simple process of asking questions and allowing yourself to be astonished by your own meditation that walks you through this path of, just like you're saying, figuring out the koshas, and in some ways logically deducing to yourself based on that moment of meditation that yes, now I can experience the reality that in some ways I am purnam, I'm whole, in some ways that when I'm meditating I can be without kama, I can um I can be desireless, I can be fearless. And to me, I found that of great value in that you're right. It's very nice to do the reflection, some of these texts, and be able to understand the koshas, to be understand, what is prakriti, what is purusha. And then when you pair it with some of these meditation experiences where you may not necessarily have an aha moment, but you can start to rationally deduce or derive where those experiences come.
Yeah. Yeah. So to your point, with Vedantic meditation, I do with Pradasmarana Stotra, right? Three verses. So that is a good segue into doing it, because each verse is about I am surrendering to that ultimate reality. So there is a pathway, but there's an even Shankaracharya's even better one that I like is called Eka Shloki, the entire Vedanta in one shloka, which is basically from the idea from Kenopanishad saying, Kim Jodhistava Banumana Hanma. So it's basically Guru Shishya conversation. What is your light? And Shishya says, um, during the day, sun, in the night, all the lights. Um, all right. So what happens if you don't have any of those lights? In the absence of light, who is your light? He says eyes. What if your eyes are closed? He says mind. What if your mind, what sees your mind? He says intellect. What sees you? Finally, he says myself. And he says, yeah, you are that. And he says, the guru says, you are that. Tatvamasi, you are that. Shishya says, yes, aham brahmasmi. Right? So you get to that whole in just simply the idea of seeing and what is seen. I mean, the same thing is Avaroksha Anubhuti also tells the same idea. So this is a good meditative thing to do.
It's very interesting. In almost all of our Vedantic studies, we talk about the importance of a guru to really start to unfold the meaning of these things. And for me, I would say that even in meditation, I've come to feel that a guru is really important, right? Because otherwise, it's very easy to close your eyes and go to sleep, or to close your eyes and do shabda dhyanam, rupa dhyanam, and eventually kind of go from one thing to another, not knowing what the destination is. And that's okay if it gives momentary peace of mind. But I think it is helpful to have a guru or to have something that guides you towards sort of understanding why is it that you have that moment of stillness when you do a meditation? And what does that stillness mean? And what can that stillness teach you? And how can that stillness become less fleeting and stay with you for more of the day? So, not in any way to take away from the values of just meditating for the sake of meditating. But I feel like once we start to interrogate why that feeling exists, it's like opening a Pandora's box.
Absolutely. And that is beyond explaining to somebody, right? At that point, explanations stop. You really can't say what it is, because it is your experience, and you are you're absorbed in that experience, and then words won't get there. And until then, you can explain what the benefits are, what you find and how you find it, the methodologies. I mean, 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? The entire process of meditation, step by step by step. And but at the end of the day, nobody can give you, even Krishna can't give you the experience. And it's something that you go through on your own.
Recently, I saw a little post and video by Rajatananda talking about meditation, where he had a very interesting take. He's like, don't worry about all of this and that. Just do meditation and love God and ask Him to help you, and He'll help you. And that is such an interesting, simple sounding advice, because even when you go down the path of Vedantic meditation, right, you somehow eventually end up at surrender. You somehow end up at saying, who am I? I'm the consciousness. And so what determines everything that's going to happen? The consciousness determines everything. So it like that very roundabout path takes you to surrender, right? And it's very interesting what advice he gave, which was just start off with just asking God for help. And eventually God will start to speak to you. And, I don't think he means, or maybe he does. Well, I don't interpret it as he meaning that God will come in front of you and give you a darshan and speak to you, but it comes more to what you were saying, that when you're in those moments of clarity, the the uncertainty that you have in your mind filters away. So your own heart or your own consciousness is able to tell you the answer that you're looking for, because you usually know the answer to most of the questions that you need or the help that you want also.
Yeah. So I know if you remember, somebody asked me in teacher satsang, jnana and surrender, and I was struggling to explain, and I had to use so many words, and I found myself um, being very verbose at that point, and I said, okay, I'll find something better for you. And that's why I sent all of you what Ramana Maharshi said about surrender and jnana, right? I came back and looked at this man in one sentence, has told all that I was trying to it's so that clarity of what you want, and eventually jnana and surrender are nothing much. And in Narada Bhakti Sutra, that's where Narada is also coming to, where you go through the path of Narada being a bhakti guy. Of course, I mean, he's associated with that bhakti school. So I was telling in the class, right, everybody has a specialization, so you have to teach what you're a specialist in. So Narada can't say, so he says bhakti is better than jnana in a very nice way, but he's explaining why it is. But if he belongs to that school, he has to do the justification of that school, right? But eventually he'll come back and say nothing, and none of these are different from each other.
Well, can you just take a few minutes and talk about that Ramana Maharshi statement?
Yeah. So the idea is this shishya is asking, if I'm in the path of God, and it was mostly about a saguna Brahman, right? Having a God. And then here is all about Nirguna Brahman finally, which is apparently the ultimate thing. What's the difference? What is it that which is better? Um, so he said, in a Saguna Brahman, you cannot realize with form if you don't surrender. Not knowing his act, not knowing the details of who he is and how he is, and what is he constituted of, and 24 pragritis of him is not going to help you. Simply surrender, right? And then the reason you are unconditionally surrendering, for what? For something in return, eventually. And that something in return, no God can give you anything material. No God can give you any comfort. All gods can give you is knowledge. Because for even though you think you want comforts, what you actually deserve for a true bhakta, for a person, if your life in the world has to be realized, what you need is that knowledge. And if you surrender to that God knows what to give. So stop asking. Surrender means stopping to ask.
So it's said so beautifully. And, even Tatodananda says, when he talks about meditation, he says, meditation is not an act, but it's a
Yeah.
process of inquiry.
Yeah.
Only acts have phala, right? Only acts have outcomes. So when you meditate, there is no
There's no
outcome.
action.
You don't get anything out of it. But why do you do it? You do it so that you can realize a different side of yourself. You can realize that, again, it is not you that depends on the world's circumstances, but the world's circumstances depend on you. And that is the outcome. So there isn't a fruit or result of the action, because one shouldn't think of meditation as an action. And in the early stages, I think we feel action, we feel outcomes, right? We feel calmer, we feel more focused. But I think we should use those as an impetus to dig further and understand, why do we feel that way? And then we'll hopefully stop feeling of it as a outcome, rather it's a process. Anything else to add?
No, I think we've covered. I mean, this is something that, you know what, I'm so, even lots of other things I can at least claim that I have read enough to say something that is not contradictory to what is written. But this is something that the experiential thing is really hard to point in and say, like you said, what are the benefits of meditation. Even in Bhagavad Gita has benefits of meditation. Shanai Shanai Rubarame. Gradually you take things in and you feel calm. So it gives you, because without giving a phala of an action, nobody will do it, right? So you have to start off this as an action. Start off meditation as an action where you sit in a certain place, you sit in a certain way. Even Bhagavad Gita says you have to sit in a certain kind of a darbar thing, of course, very, very prescriptive. And you have to focus your eyes in this. And like horses' reins are controlled, you should do it. And like a horse rider will get onto a horse. So it's just so much of procedural description that is making this whole thing an action, because to a starter you need all of that, and then you've done this so much, it becomes muscle memory. It's no more an action after that, right? And so it's very hard to explain, and even hard feeling you've not gotten to where the actual end feeling has to be also. So
We'll conclude for today, and we'll
yes,
pick up next time. Okay.
yes, all right,
Hariom,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much. Hari Om.